Right, so we have news regarding the iPhone 14 series that Apple's obviously going to be announcing at the September event, and so let's delve into it. So let's begin with the always-on display for the 14 Pros, since we do have an Xcode leak, basically showing us how this feature's going to work. Now initially there was a leak within iOS beta showing us the always-on display would not be black, and instead the wallpaper will be darkened and apparent in the background. Now this made no sense to me because this would absolutely obliterate the battery life. The whole point Android manufacturers have a black background for their always-on displays is to save battery life, and so Apple going against that would be pretty odd. Thankfully, this new Xcode leak does show us an always-on display that's more traditional, so of course a black background, and this ultimately makes a lot more sense because a black background is going to save you battery life, and so especially with the LTPO tech, battery drain should be minimal, so yes, I'm glad that leak was false. However, it does seem there might be a setting where of course you can see some elements of the wallpaper, but also there is a black and white version that's going to save you battery life. And for those of you worried about production delays, because of tension between China and Taiwan, thankfully Tim's thought about this, and we should see Apple produce iPhones in China and India at the same time. Now this will be a first because usually Apple produces older iPhone models and new iPhones after a few months at the India plant. But this will be the first time they're producing new iPhones at that plant on day one, and that's great news because, especially with the issues right now, I do think Apple should diversify their supply chain. Now finally, we have a physical model for the 14 Pro Max, and comparing it to the 13 Pro Max, as expected, the camera bump is massive, it's a huge increase, and it sticks out quite a bit. And also you can see with the screen protector, this pill chip cutout is actually quite massive and does not save you a ton of space compared to the notch. Anyways, let's move on to cases that have leaked for the 14 series, and they basically further confirm things we already know about, like the larger camera bump on the Pros, and also the thicker body for the Pros. There was also a model that leaked on Weibo that showcased the pill chip cutout on the front, and specifically the front-facing camera being pretty apparent on the screen of the 14 Pro series, and this most likely is not going to be the case because right now the front-facing camera is relatively hidden on the notch, and so I do have my doubts over it being this visible with the 14 Pros. Also, the earpiece is a lot larger than other models, and that again could be a sign that this is not accurately representing the 14 Pros. Anyways, we do also have some silicone cases that have leaked that could be showing us the possible colours we could see at launch. So we have a midnight, a succulent. That's a pretty sus name, but anyways, it's a pretty nice mint shade. Then we have chalk pink, red, lilac, sunglow, strong blue, and elderberry. Those names are pretty funky, so I doubt those are the final marketing names for these, but the colours, those could be final. And actually we do have live images for these cases, and the yellow especially does look great, and I'm hoping there is a regular iPhone shade that matches the case. However, regarding prices, there might be some good news because the price hikes might not be as bad as we thought. So of course, announcing major price hikes during this inflationary period might not be the right move, and so Apple instead might lower their profit margins and give us smaller price hikes. And actually with the regular models, the price could be slightly cheaper because TrendForce believes the 14 could be $749, which of course is a small decrease over the price of the regular 13 at $799, and then the 14 Max becomes $849. Now this would be a terrific deal in my opinion, and of course could compensate for the lack of upgrades we're gonna see with the regular models. And of course do remember that Apple lowering their profit margins and increasing sales means that they make way more money through services in the long term. So yeah, this does seem likely. But anyways, with the Pro models, TrendForce believes the regular Pro could be $1049 and the Pro Max could be $1149. So yeah, that again would be smaller price hikes than what we've heard from other sources, and I would appreciate that. And yes, I know that TrendForce is not so credible, but what they tell us does make sense, and I'm hoping this is the case. Anyways, moving on, the Wall Street Journal does tell us the regular iPhone 14 models are getting a better version of the A15 chip. Now that's all they tell us, so of course that could be referring to the fact we are getting the iPhone 13 Pro A15 in this with the 5-core GPU, or of course this could be better than that, and maybe it's an overclocked version of the A15 chip. Now, since everyone's been telling us it's going to be the iPhone 13 Pro A15, I do think that's going to be the case, but obviously I would love to see Apple surprise us with a slightly better version of the A15 chip. And by the way guys, I'm pretty sure the branding of the iPhone 14 chip is actually still going to be A16, because do remember Apple does this often with the Apple Watch. The S7 is the same as the S6, but it still has a new name, so I could see Apple doing that where the regular 14s get the A16 chip, but the Pros get an A16 Pro instead. Anyways, moving on to the satellite features we could see with the 14 series, we have a satellite communications analyst telling us that yes, we are going to see this, and a hint of this could be seen with the partnership between Starlink and T-Mobile, because they recently announced their own plans to give us service anywhere on the planet using Starlink satellites, and while the new satellites needed for this are actually not ready yet, and so basically what they were presenting to us are concepts in development, and while this analyst believes they rushed to announce this officially because Apple does plan to announce a competing service with Globalstar Inc. for the 14 series. And finally we have Max Weinbach telling us eSIM-only iPhones could actually release. We've heard a lot about this, and I've been mixed. And if this does happen, I do believe the eSIM-only iPhones are going to be in the US exclusively, much like, of course, millimeter wave is. And that's purely because many countries are not ready for eSIM-only iPhones. For example, my carrier does not support it, and so this could be a train wreck if Apple does launch it globally. And so introducing it in a country like the US, where I believe has pretty good eSIM adoption, is of course the smart move. And then eventually when eSIM adoption gets better, then of course Apple can bring this change globally. Anyways, that's about it guys, but tell me your thoughts regarding these reports in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching guys, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours. Check out above on details regarding the M2 iPad Pros, and on that note, see ya peeps.